What's up, everyone? Good morning and welcome to our Water's Edge Sunday morning online worship experience. Once again, thank you so very much for tuning in and hanging out with us today. For those of you that continue to invite people to our live and in-person services every single Sunday at 9:30 and 11:15, or for those of you that continue to like and share our online worship experiences with your circle of influence, thank you so very much for doing that and continue to do that, because we have new people showing up every single week and tuning in every single week, getting help with their heart and their life and their faith and their storms and their circumstances and their walk with Christ. Also, for those of you that continue to worship with us every single week, not just through song and not just through learning from God's Word, but also through a very beautiful and cheerful and holy way to worship, which is through offerings and tithes and giving and generosity. Thank you so very much for doing that. And right now you're going to be seeing some pictures of our volunteers and our volunteers working in our cooling center that we run every single day during the heat wave, during the summer. Your church is doing this. Your church is open for the unhoused community, ministering to people that have needs, ministering to people who are hungry, ministering to people who don't have any place to go, ministering to people who are in desperation. And this is all made possible by your love and your worship through generosity and giving and offerings. Every time you worship with us through giving and generosity and offerings, you allow us to help more people, love more people, feed more people, serve more people, shelter more people, baptize more people, reach more people, minister to more people, and show our community and our city the love of God and the body of Christ. John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that He gave." And when we love, we give. And when we love God, and when we love God's church, and when we love the mission that Jesus has for His local church and our local community, then we want to give back. And every time you worship by giving to the Water's Edge, understand that you're not giving to the Water's Edge, you're giving through the Water's Edge, and you allow us to put that into action and to put love into action. And also, every time you volunteer, you put your own faith and love into action. So thank you so very much for doing that. Continue to worship with us through offerings and giving and generosity. Now, today we continue with our current series, and this series is called Evidence. And growing up, I would hear a lot. I've told you this before over the past few weeks, but we would hear a lot about experiencing God. We heard that phrase a lot, and I think I understood what they meant when they would say that, and this is what we would mean. We didn't want our relationship with Jesus to be religious or ritualistic or surface or fake or routine. We wanted our relationship with Jesus to be very real and very personal. And many times we would explain that in this way. We would say that we had some sort of experience with God or some sort of experience with the presence of Jesus. And most of the time when people would say that they had some sort of experience with the presence of Jesus in their life or the love of God in their life, it would or should produce some sort of evidence. And like I've told you over the past few weeks in this series, to me, the greatest evidence that someone has had very real experiences with the real love of Jesus is this, is if they developed a faith that just refuses to give up. It doesn't mean that we've stepped into perfection, because we never will. It doesn't mean that if we've had this transforming experience with the love of God that we step into perfect holiness, because we never will, or we step into perfect righteousness or godliness, because we never will. That's not what it means. It simply means that no matter what we go through, we have developed a faith that just refuses to let go of Jesus, because we know of what He's done for us and what His grace has done for us and what His forgiveness has done for us and what this new purpose in our life has done for us. It's given us a reason to wake up and live. In times of victory, we hold on to our faith, but even in times of struggle, we have a faith that refuses to give up. That's the greatest evidence. And yes, even in times of personal failure, we still have a faith that refuses to give up. The greatest evidence to me that someone has had a very real experience with the love of Jesus is if they've developed a faith, no matter what they go through, whether they take 10 steps forward or 10 steps backward or fall flat on their face, is a faith that refuses to let go of the garment of Jesus. We pray, it helps. We worship, it moves us. We seek God, it anchors us. We experience Christ, it revives us. But what all do and should we experience when we say that we have an experience with the love of Jesus? And is that something we should even be looking for today? And how would you explain that to someone else who wants to experience more? You and I have been through difficult times. We've seen difficult times. We have endured through difficult times. We have rebuilt, and we're still rebuilding through difficult times. We have come back, and we're still trying to come back through difficult times. And listen to me. Remember this today, and notice this. If you're still with me, say I'm still with you. You're not being fake if you practice perseverance to push through your difficult times to get you back into a place of joy. That's not being fake. That's being intentional about overcoming. But God has placed us here for a purpose, to love our community and to show God's love to our community. God has placed you and I here for a purpose, and that's to show hurting people God's love. All people. All people. For God so loved the world that whosoever, all people. When I was a little boy in elementary school, I would get so excited when school was over to see my mom's car in the circle drive to pick me up, or my grandma's car, that was my mom's mom, in the circle drive to pick me up. I would get so excited to see my mom after school or to see my grandma after school, and most of the time, that's who would pick me up. Well, one particular day, I went outside as school was over, and I noticed that my mom's car wasn't in the circle drive and my grandma's car wasn't in the circle drive, but my grandma and my mom's next door neighbor, the friend, Miss Fields, she was there to pick me up. We were very close to them, and so Miss Fields picked me up, and she was going to drop me off at my grandparents' house because my mom had some after-work errands to run, and my grandparents weren't home yet because they were running some errands, but they would be home in about 20 minutes. And so Miss Fields dropped me off to my grandparents' house in Moss Bluff, and my papa had worked offshore, and when he did, he had picked up this old stray dog named Flywheel. And Flywheel was always very cool with me and my brothers and my cousins, always very print friendly, always very playful, but that was always when my papa was around. Well, on this day, nobody was around. I'd gotten dropped off by Miss Fields after school at my grandparents' house, and I was supposed to go inside and just watch TV, have a Coke, some cheese and crackers, and wait for my grandparents to get home, and then I would wait for my mom to come pick me up after they got home. And so they were only going to be gone for about 20 minutes. And so Miss Fields drops me off, and I'm walking across the yard to my grandparents' house, to their front door, and Flywheel sees me walking across the yard, and Flywheel starts running towards me. I think he just wants to play like normal. That's how he's always been with me, never aggressive or anything. And so he's approaching me. I'm approaching the house. He's getting closer to me. I'm getting closer to the house. And I reach the house, and I go to open the front door, and as soon as I go to open the front door, Flywheel, and he was a big dog, he jumps at me, and I was a little kid in elementary school. I think at this time I was maybe in 4th grade. Flywheel jumps at me and pins me up against the wall of the house outside, and he puts his mouth around my neck, and he clamps down, and he holds me there. And I'm scared to death. I mean, I'm a little kid. This dog had always been playful with me and non-aggressive with me. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know what to do, so I'm crying and I'm starting to scream, and every time I would get loud, he would clamp down a little bit harder on my neck, and every time I would try to move, he would clamp down a little bit harder on my neck. And so as a little kid, I'm thinking, I'm about to die right here in my grandparents' front yard, and there's no one here to help me. Like, I'm about to be mangled by my grandparents' dog, and he just held me there. He held me there until my grandparents drove up. And when my grandparents drove up and my papa got out of the car, all of a sudden, Flywheel just let me go and started licking me and wanted to play. Well, it scared my papa so much that he got rid of that dog. But here was the deal. All Flywheel was doing was what he was trained to do and what was his instinct to do. He was a watchdog. He was a guard dog. He was taught and trained to guard my grandfather's property. He didn't know that I wasn't a threat, and I wasn't a threat. He was just doing what watchdogs do. He was just doing what guard dogs do. They guard and attack. That's what a watchdog does. A watchdog and a guard dog guards and attacks. I wasn't a threat. I was family. But he just was doing what was ingrained in him to do, to guard and attack. And sometimes I think religion, church, and church people can all be the same way. It's like they act more like watchdogs and guard dogs instead of an invite and welcome search and rescue party. Let me say that again. It's almost like we act more like guard dogs and watchdogs of the truth of God and the truth of the Bible instead of an invite and welcome search and rescue party. Today I'd like to share my heart with you about church and religion and reality and the damage that it can cause when we do this wrong, but the transforming love people experience when we get it right. And I'd like to start off with a very interesting passage today. It's a parable or a story that Jesus makes up as an illustration to teach a point about the heart of God. And that's what a parable is in the Bible. And this is a very simple, everyday definition to understand what a parable is. And notice this today. It's a simple story used to illustrate a moral or a spiritual lesson. It's a simple, made-up story used to illustrate a moral or a spiritual lesson. But a better way to understand what a parable is in the New Testament is this way. And notice this today. If you're still with me, so I'm still with you. It's an earthly story used to illustrate a heavenly truth. So every time Jesus would tell a parable, it was an earthly story used to illustrate a heavenly truth or a principle. So on this day, Jesus tells a few stories that all illustrate the same point. And this is where we pick up today. Notice where we pick up in Luke chapter 15, starting in verse 3. So Jesus told them a story or a parable. If a man has 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others in the wilderness and go search for the one that is lost until he finds it? And go search for the one that is lost until he finds it. And when he has found it, he will joyfully carry it home on his shoulders. Joyfully carry it home on his shoulders. When he arrives, he will call together his friends and neighbors, saying, "Rejoice with me. Have a celebration with me. Have a party with me, because I have found my lost sheep." In the same way, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. So notice the breakdown right here. Notice the parable and the point of it. A shepherd has 100 sheep. Just one wanders away, so the shepherd still has 99 sheep that are safe. He had 100, only one wanders away, so he still has 99 safe sheep. A good shepherd, this good shepherd, leaves the 99 that are safe to go after just one that is lost. And when he finds it, he welcomes it back to the other 99 with joy, rejoicing, a party, and a celebration. Now, after that in this passage, Jesus goes on to tell another story about a lady who lost a coin and about a father who lost a son, the prodigal son. And in each story, whenever what was lost was found, there was a celebration. Let me say that again. And in each story of the lost sheep, the lost coin, and the lost son, whenever that which was lost was found, there was rejoicing and a party and a celebration. And Jesus even said that this is how the angels rejoice in heaven when someone finally makes their way back to God. But here's the question. Why did Jesus tell these stories in the first place? What was the point? What was the catalyst? What was going on that caused Jesus to captivate this crowd and start talking about a lost sheep? And when the shepherd finds the lost sheep, he throws a party, a lost coin. And when the lady finds that lost coin, she throws a party, a lost son. And when the lost son finally comes home, the father throws a party. What was the point? Because all these stories are about, and notice this today, this is what all these stories are about. Lost things being searched for, found, and celebrated. Notice that. All of these parables are about lost things being searched for, found, and celebrated. So what was the inspiration or the catalyst that provoked Jesus to even tell these stories? Well, we find the answers at the beginning of the chapter right before he tells these stories. So if we just keep it in context and we just look at what is happening, we find the exact reason why Jesus felt the need to make up some stories about a lost sheep, a lost coin, and a lost son to illustrate a point about the heart of God. There was a very specific reason why Jesus wanted to tell these stories, and it wasn't for the people that you think it was for. It was for the religious crowd. So notice why Jesus had to tell these stories, because there was a certain crowd here that did not understand the heart of God the Father. Luke chapter 15, verses 1 through 3. This is right before he began to tell the stories about the lost sheep, the lost coin, and the lost son. Tax collectors and other notorious sinners often came to listen to Jesus teach. This made the Pharisees and the teachers of religious law complained that he was associating with such sinful people, even eating with them. So Jesus told them this story. Catch that. You had the religious leaders, the Pharisees and the religious leaders were so upset. They were practicing guilt by association. Jesus is hanging out with sinners, tax collectors, not just sinners, notorious sinners. This is one of the reasons why they killed him. So because they were grumbling on the inside that Jesus was becoming friends with people that didn't look like them, didn't worship like them, didn't live as holy as them, didn't live as righteous as them, didn't live as religious as them. The reason why Jesus felt the need to tell these stories is because these religious people did not understand the love of God or the heart of God. They were sitting there thinking, He's compromising our religious standards. He's compromising our religious values. He's compromising our religious holiness and teachings. And so they were acting as religious watchdogs. They were acting as religious watchdogs. Now, here's the deal. Why was Jesus hanging around these notorious sinners and tax collectors all the time? Why? Not because He was bored. They didn't feel loved. They didn't feel seen. They didn't feel welcomed. But they did by Jesus. And this made the ultra-religious furious on the inside, because these people were responding to Jesus and they knew that they would not respond to them whatsoever. And so they were acting as guard dogs while Jesus and the disciples were acting as a search and rescue party. The religious Pharisees were the "you're not holy enough for us" party, while Jesus and His disciples were the "welcome back home" party. Let me say that again. The religious Pharisees, they even practice this today, are the "you're not holy enough for us" crew, while Jesus and His disciples were the welcome back home crew, the search and rescue party, not the "we're too holy for you" party. Jesus told these parables not only to make the hurting among them feel loved and invited by God, but He also knew that the ultra-judgmental religious watchdogs were listening. So He grabbed this moment to help teach them what the true heart of God was like. And my heart is this: the Water's Edge will never be a guard dog, watchdog church. We will always be a welcome home church, and we will always be a search and rescue party church. We will never be a guard dog, watchdog church. We will always be a church that welcomes all and loves all. So let me ask you a few questions about this interaction with Jesus and these religious leaders. The first thing is this, and notice this. Who were the shepherd, the lady, and the father preoccupied with? The shepherd, the lady, and the father who lost his son were obsessed with, and they were preoccupied with what was missing. They were hyper-focused on that was lost and that which was missing. The lost sheep, the lost coin, and the lost son. And they obviously absolutely loved their other sheep. They obviously absolutely loved their other coins and their other children or their other son that was safe, but they were also safe. So according to Jesus, a good shepherd and a good loving father and a good steward will always be focused on that or who which is missing and lost. Next is this. What was the religious guard dogs focused on? They were too focused on who Jesus was hanging out with instead of why He is hanging out with them. Let me say that again. They were too focused on who Jesus was friends with instead of why He was actually friends with them. They were just appalled that Jesus would have friends that were unholy sinners. Understand something. When Jesus was here, the people that were the most like Jesus in their lifestyle hated Jesus the most. And the people that were the most unlike Jesus in their lifestyle loved Jesus the most. Let me say that again so you catch it. When Jesus was here, the people that lived the most like Jesus hated Him the most and killed Him. And the people that lived the most unlike Jesus ran to Him and loved Him the most. Oh, they thought this is going to ruin the reputation of Jesus, a guilt by association, a friend to sinners. Put that bad boy on your resume as a rabbi and your career's over. Judgmental people will always try to do that too, guilt by association. But Jesus wasn't friends with them because He was bored and looking to have fun. Jesus was friends with them because they were hurting. He wasn't friends with them because He was bored and needed something to do. He was friends with them because they were lonely, confused, discouraged, hungry, friendless, afraid, empty, rejected, marginalized. He was a friend to the missing and the lost sheep. Next point is this. If you're still with me, so I'm still with you. What are you focused on? Being a watchdog of the church, being a guard dog of the church and the truth, or opening the doors to all people? Our faith in the form of a real relationship with Jesus was not given to us to keep to ourselves and guard it like a watchdog. God can defend His word Himself. He don't need you to try to do it. You're going to mess it up if you try. God can defend His truth Himself. He doesn't need you to do it. You're going to just come off as a Pharisee if you try. Our faith in the form of a real relationship with Jesus was not given to us for us to keep to ourselves or protect from the bad people or protect from the bad crew or to do church just for the strong and the holy. It was given to us so we could be a search and rescue party, so we can welcome and love and invite all people. Invite those who don't look like us. Invite those who don't think like us. Invite those who have a different past than we do, a different struggle than we do, different dreams than we do. For God so loved the world that He gave His only Son, that whosoever, if a church can't feel welcoming and inviting to all people, then it is not a Jesus movement. If the church cannot feel welcoming and inviting to all people, it is not a Jesus movement. It's a social club for the frozen chosen. Next is this. How can we be a good shepherd church? This is how. We must be focused on, obsessed with, laser focused on those who you and I know would be helped by this ministry who are not here yet. We have to be laser focused on the people that we know who are hurting on the inside, and they could use the experience of the love of God here just like you. The addicted, the lonely, the rejected, the lost, the searching, the familyless, the powerless, the broken. Another evidence that you and I have had very real experiences with the love of Jesus is this. Now again, we're not talking about what other people can see on the outside of us. That's the fruit of the Spirit. That's what other people can see. For the fruit or the evidence of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control. The world should see that. But I'm talking about the evidence that you and I feel on the inside of us. The first week, if you're just catching up with us today, is this. You experience hope for a new beginning. No matter what you go through, and we've been through difficult times, and we've tried to come back from difficult times, and we're still going through difficult times, and we're still trying to come back from difficult times, but we experience this hope for a new beginning as we have very real experiences with the love of Jesus. After that, another evidence that we can feel on the inside of us is this, is that we have our minds set and fixed on three things: on God's love, God's peace, and helping the hurting people around us experience and understand God's love and God's peace. And then we move on today, and this is another one that we can feel on the inside of us today. We can feel it on the inside of us when we have an experience with Jesus, and this is what it is. We want to make room for and welcome all people to experience His unconditional love. When you really have an experience with the love of Jesus, one of the fruits or the evidences on the inside of you is you begin to develop this passion to make room for and to welcome all people to come and experience the same love that is transforming you. Not to meet your standards, not to meet your religious rules, not to meet your religious expectations of them. God is not calling you to be His guard dog, to guard and attack those people that you think are just going to mess up your faith or drag you away from Jesus, or whatever it is. There has to come a time where you understand your faith was given to you to give away to other people. And so one of the things that we feel on the inside of us after we experience the love of Jesus is that you and I absolutely want to welcome, love all people, and invite all people to experience that same love. We are not a watchdog crew. We are a search and rescue party who welcome all and love all and invite all. Thank you so very much for hanging out with us today. Thank you so very much for tuning in. Now continue to stay tuned in for an amazing time of worship with the amazing Water's Edge worship team. We cannot wait to see you back next week, and we love you all.